When Jeff Bezos and Sánchez began planning what would become the most overprotected wedding of the year in Venice, every detail was designed for silence. Private yachts, blacked-out venues, and ultra-discreet schedules kept guests moving like shadows through the Italian city. But one moment, one exchange slipped past the event's security curtain, and it involved Kris Jenner. Just hours after the billionaire celebrations hit their peak, eyewitnesses and professional lip readers revealed a stunning moment. Kris, 69, publicly scolding her boyfriend Corey Gamble, 44, in full view of other elite guests. And it didn't happen during a heated moment inside the venue. It unfolded on the docks while boarding a private water taxi. This wasn't a one-off outburst or a misunderstood glance. It was a direct, pointed confrontation caught in real time, now under dissection by fans, insiders, and celebrity media. As the evening wound down and guests began exiting the ultra-exclusive festivities, Kris and Corey walked toward a water taxi arranged for their departure. But instead of stepping into the boat together, Kris suddenly pulled back. A moment of tension followed. According to professional lip reader Nicola Hickling, who reviewed the footage of their exit, Corey stepped in first, then looked back at Kris for confirmation. Kris remained still, looked directly at him, and then said what has now become the most repeated phrase in this unfolding drama. "What are you doing? Do you need to talk? I told you. For God's sake, I'd like to travel alone." Those words weren't whispered. They were spoken with clear frustration. Her tone, controlled, sharp, and undeniable. This wasn't a passive-aggressive comment. It was a clean, direct shutdown. Corey didn't argue. Instead, he turned to the staff managing the dock and told them, "We're happy to travel on our own. It's what Kris would like to do." The implication was unmistakable. This wasn't a shared decision. It was a reaction to a request she had made earlier, possibly ignored or second-guessed. Whatever the case, Corey immediately stepped back, let Kris board separately, and the boat left with Kris visibly seated alone. For anyone watching, it looked like more than just a scheduling hiccup, and for those reviewing the footage later, it became a key moment of visible relationship tension in the middle of a supposedly picture-perfect celebration. Observers on site described the scene as awkward but calm. Kris maintained poise throughout, even pausing to thank a porter who offered her a napkin. But body language experts later noted the stiffness in her posture, the controlled movements, and the curt delivery of her words. This wasn't the energy of someone mildly annoyed, it was the composure of someone setting boundaries publicly, likely after an earlier disagreement. And it wasn't just the public tone that raised eyebrows, it was the choice to do so during an event where discretion was paramount. With guests like Oprah, Kim Kardashian, Leonardo DiCaprio, Ivanka Trump, and Tom Brady nearby, every interaction was being watched. For Kris to visibly reject Corey's presence at a moment of high visibility suggested something had snapped. What made this more surprising was how well orchestrated the Jenner presence had been up to that point. According to insiders, only Kris and Kim Kardashian were originally invited to the Bezos-Sánchez wedding, but Kris, not one to miss an opportunity to expand influence, reportedly reached out to Sánchez directly and persuaded her to open invites to more of the family. As a result, Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner, and Khloe Kardashian were added to the guest list. A source told Page Six that Kris had matchmaking intentions, suggesting that with so many billionaires and single moguls in the room, having her daughters in the mix could lead to new connections. It was a calculated move in line with Kris's well-known strategy of always turning appearances into positioning. And for a while, it worked. The Kardashian-Jenner contingent received press attention, trended online, and made a coordinated entrance that matched the sleek tone of the wedding. But this public confrontation with Corey added a crack in that veneer. Viewers who saw the footage started questioning the current state of Kris and Corey's relationship. After all, they've been together for over a decade, but rarely has there been a public disagreement between them, especially one that unfolded in front of cameras at an event of this scale. The fact that the moment was visible, interpretable, and easy to lip read made it hard to deny, and while neither party made a public statement afterward, fans and outlets immediately began dissecting what it meant. Was this an isolated moment of tension, or had months of pressure built up under the surface finally spilling over in Venice? Further complicating the situation were the broader rumors already circulating during the wedding weekend. Several guests were reportedly unhappy with how controlled the event had been. Multiple celebrities were said to have left early due to excessive restrictions on phones and photography. One stylist told media that their client, a high-profile influencer, felt like they were treated like furniture, expected to blend into the background and follow strict visual codes. Other guests complained that their arrival times were micromanaged and that the wedding, while stunning, felt more like a photo shoot than a celebration. Within that atmosphere, Kris and Corey's disagreement stood out because it felt real. It wasn't curated, it wasn't rehearsed, and it clashed directly with the tone the wedding was trying to present. The moment also reignited previous speculation about the balance in Kris and Corey's relationship. Corey has often remained in the background, attending events, offering support, but rarely seen taking center stage. His role has been described by some as that of a quiet presence, someone who adapts to Kris's movements rather than standing alongside her as an equal in public dynamics. That perception, whether true or not, has followed them throughout their time together, and when paired with Kris's strong leadership style and tendency to manage every situation, it creates a dynamic that fans often question but rarely see break down in public until now. That's why the "I told you for God's sake, I'd like to travel alone" line hit so hard online. It wasn't just a casual statement, it was a breaking of tone, a refusal to hide irritation behind a smile, and a decision to put her preference ahead of shared optics. In a setting where couples like Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry or Tom Brady and his +1 were being photographed non-stop, Kris making a point to ride alone said more than any Instagram story could. Meanwhile, Corey's response didn't involve resistance. He calmly relayed her wishes to the staff, made no attempt to follow her onto the boat, and remained behind. His body language suggested restraint, hands at his sides, face neutral, no gestures, but observers wondered whether that restraint reflected professionalism or something else, resignation perhaps. Afterward, neither Kris nor Corey was seen mingling publicly during the remaining brunch events, further fueling speculation that the disagreement was more than temporary. In the days following the event, online speculation exploded. Social media users began posting slowed-down video of the exchange, editing it with subtitles of what Kris reportedly said, and breaking down every second of the water taxi moment frame by frame. TikTok creators circulated breakdowns of Kris's facial expressions, arguing whether it showed anger, frustration, or something deeper, possibly exhaustion. Others began pointing out that in many photos from the weekend, Corey Gamble was rarely pictured with Kris at all. When he did appear, it was often in the background or several steps behind, leading some followers to question if tensions had been building all weekend long. And then came the resurfaced rumors. Online threads dug up old interviews, red carpet moments, and earlier public appearances where Kris and Corey had been caught in brief, tense exchanges or sidestepping direct eye contact. The wedding clip reignited a much older conversation about whether their relationship had been showing quiet signs of distance all along. Adding more fuel to the speculation was the Kardashian-Jenner silence that followed. Usually, the family is quick to post stories or glam updates after big events, especially something this high profile. But after the Bezos Sánchez wedding, there was a noticeable pause. Kris didn't immediately post about the celebration. Kylie and Kendall remained quiet despite having shared snippets of their European outfits earlier in the week. Kim uploaded generic travel content but made no mention of the wedding. The family, known for controlling the narrative, said nothing about the Venice trip publicly. That silence didn't go unnoticed. For many fans, it confirmed that something hadn't gone as planned, and Kris's blow-up with Corey had become the dominant takeaway from a weekend meant to celebrate someone else's love story. As the media dug further, more behind-the-scenes observations emerged. A stylist who dressed one of the guests told a source that there was a weird vibe at the after party, that even though the setting was luxurious and every detail was camera ready, the energy between some celebrity couples felt off. They specifically mentioned one woman who seemed fed up with her partner and requested to be seated at a different table midway through the night. Though the source didn't name names, online theories immediately jumped to Kris and Corey, especially since they were among the most talked about couples after the water taxi moment. Corey himself has said very little publicly over the years. Unlike the rest of the Kardashian circle, he doesn't post often, rarely gives interviews, and mostly avoids attention outside of the family's reality series. But in past clips from Keeping Up with the Kardashians, there have been hints of friction. In one scene, he clashed with Scott Disick, who accused Corey of not being transparent. In another, he got into a heated exchange with Kendall Jenner over parenting disagreements. While those moments were framed as one-off drama for reality TV, fans are now rewatching them in a new light, wondering if Kris's visible irritation at the Bezos wedding was just the latest chapter in a longer buildup of tension between Corey and those closest to her. Meanwhile, insiders close to the Kardashian camp claim that Kris has been under increasing stress in recent months, with multiple brands under her management, ongoing filming for the family's Hulu show, and strategic negotiations around business expansions and licensing. She's reportedly been stretched thin. Pair that with a hyper-pressurized, billionaire-studded wedding where every detail mattered, and it's possible that the smallest disagreement with Corey may have sparked a bigger emotional reaction. Some observers argue that Kris's decision to travel alone wasn't just about Corey, it was a power move, a reassertion of control, and a reminder that even in her personal relationships, she's the one who sets the terms. Still, there's another layer here that fans haven't missed: Kris's carefully maintained image. For decades, she's cultivated a brand of glam, poise, and calculation. She rarely shows cracks in public, and when she does, they're usually part of a controlled narrative arc. The fact that this moment with Corey slipped through a raw, unedited glimpse of annoyance or fatigue makes it especially significant. It wasn't part of a show, it wasn't staged for a camera crew, and it wasn't filtered through a PR lens. It was real, or at least real enough to become the most viral takeaway from one of the most exclusive weddings in recent celebrity history. As of now, neither Kris nor Corey has issued a statement. No clarifications, no interviews, no posts, but the footage speaks volumes, and the internet isn't forgetting anytime soon. What began as a private disagreement caught in passing has now become a full-blown media cycle, dominating headlines and overshadowing much of the Bezos-Sánchez coverage. And unless Kris takes control of the story soon, the speculation will continue to grow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Whose side are you on in this situation? Was it just a bad moment or something deeper?